What's going on, everyone? Welcome to The Real Deal. Let me just throw myself up here. It's a big episode today where we go over the great victory of Cristiano Ronaldo over Lamine Yamal to save us from this garbage narrative that Ronaldo is the best player or something, that he's the only one, or sorry, that Lamine is the best player, that he needs to win the Ballon d'Or, that he needs to be the best player, that at 17, that he's been this great God that nobody else in football has seen. Ronaldo put an end to it. We are here to react. I'd been dreading this day for some time. And this morning, when I looked at the stats, guys, I was just shocked. Lamine averages 0.69 expected goals plus expected assisted goals per 90. 0.69. So essentially, he is not only he's not special. I don't know how to say it, but like Vinicius last season is at 0.77 expected goals plus assists per 90. And coming into this, the narrative, the way people were talking about Lamine, I thought he's inevitable. I'm going to be honest, guys, when you're the best player in the world, I feel like you get close to one expected goal, one expected assist per 90. That's usually what we're going for. Messi, Ronaldo, Suarez, Neymar, when you look at their best years, I'll pull up Bale. They're always at a certain threshold statistically. And it just stood out to me that none of the Ballon d'Or winners or contenders this year, they all have huge holes in terms of their case. So I just want to rip into Lamine's Ballon d'Or case. Before I even review the game, I just want to talk about some of his stats. He's at 0.69 expected goals and assists per 90. He's at 13 progressive passes received and 65 touches per game. Let's compare that to Vinicius. Last season, he was at 49 touches per game. He was at 10 progressive passes received. Why is this a big difference? Because the reason Yamal's getting such crazy end product, in my opinion, partly is because Hansi Flick's system feeds them the ball. So with Hansi Flick feeding them the ball, runners always going fast. They don't play defensive possession at all. Their possession is purely to hurt you. So Lamine, from what I've been watching this season, has the most options of like any winger. The attack is so dynamic. And part of that is him being given the keys. It's on Flick saying, hey, everyone, when Lamine gets the ball, you guys make runs. But Lamine himself, I thought he was at like one expected goal plus assists per 90. Like I said, when you go back through the start of his season, when you go to the very beginning, September, October, his stats were ridiculous. They were very high. They were off the charts, but it's normalized over the season. And I know Lamine has played 50 90s to Vinicius' 34 last season, but I just want people to get out of here with this idea that Lamine is the undisputed best player in the world. Going off big game performances and consistency, like he didn't win the Champions League. I know he played well against Inter, but they didn't make it over the line because they played so offensively against Inter. And that's the whole point. They play a style of play that's a trade-off that lets Lamine shine. On top of that, you have the Spain team that are amazing. And it felt like all the circumstances of coaches, personnel around him were converging. With that being said, Lamine is nowhere near Messi yet. He's played 50 90s. Messi did not get to 50 90s until 2014-15 per Football Reference. Even if you look at like whereabouts of 50, he wasn't hitting 50 or getting close to 50 till later in his career. So you're hoping that Lamine continues to develop while playing so much game time, one. Two, when you look at Lamine in terms of his expected goals, 0.36 or 0.32 per 90 this year in all competitions per Football Reference. He's at 0.36 goals per 90. So that's a small gap. Messi, his whole career is just only getting on the end of like 0.5 to 0.6 expected goals worth of chances. And then he's scoring 0.8 to 1 goal from that. He's turning lemons into lemonade. Lamine could get there. He's only young. And he has the sort of problem solving you'd expect from someone so young to be able to develop that. But he's played 50 90s, guys. If he's not going to rest, he's not getting there. I honestly don't think playing every week until you get injured is how you develop. I think development happens with rest. I mean, this is well known. Anytime you go to the gym, if you don't sleep well, how are you going to recover for the next day? This is no different. And it's very similar in the sense that playing too many games hurts your recovery capacity, hurts your capacity to grow, hurts your ability to learn. So there's that. Just wanted to put it out that Yamal's Ballon d'Or case was weak. The other candidates are weak in different ways. Mbappe did not play well in the fall, if you count him as a candidate. And I feel like the fact that we had to accommodate him for half the season takes away from his case. He plundered the numbers down the stretch, but you do want to give it to someone who's scoring when the season still matters. And I know he scored a hat-trick in the Clásico, but at that point, I feel like the case needed to be started to be made in October, November, and we didn't win the Champions League. Then you go to Ousmane Dembélé. The dude literally sits at home and orders Uber Eats every other week. Like, he played 19 league 90s. You're telling me the best player in the world can play every other week in your domestic league? That just tells me you are seriously advantaged, and that maybe he doesn't matter as much to your team as you think. Maybe he was just the most important player or the guy with the most end product on your team. Then we go to Lamine, which I already broke down. And I think the strongest case for Ballon d'Or, it's tricky because he's not playing in the Club World Cup, would be Mo Salah. Scored in a very tough Premier League. I think that's the hardest competition. I think the Premier League was harder than La Liga this year. It was a brutal league, and they were in a bit of a transition year. I thought Salah did it. So yeah, that's the case. Now let's just go quickly to the post-game review. Going into this game, very hard to see a path to Portugal winning. It's a lot like England in the Euro final last year. Last year, you go into the game, England are talented just like this Portugal team, but Spain are just scoring for fun. And there's something about the way their coach takes the handbrakes off that lets them go all in. But Lacante was pointing out something interesting in the pregame, and he was pointing it out during the game too on Twitter, which is that Pedri coming off for Spain was kind of big for them last year when he got hurt against Germany or whatever, in that even though he's been played closer to goal, that all started with Xavi. I was just talking to my little brother, Barcelona fan. Xavi had to play Pedri closer to goal because Xavi wanted more problem solving near goal. Xavi also didn't know how to create chances without putting all his best decision makers near goal. That's just a typical thing you fall back on if you don't know what you're doing offensively. So Xavi puts Pedri near goal, and then I think maybe that kind of transfers into the De La Fuente's thinking, where Pedri's playing the 10, but they look better with Pedri off because Pedri's conservative. Today, we did see that play out as well. Outside the 20 minutes of the first half, where pretty much going into Spain's goal, Spain didn't play well the whole game. And you could argue some of that was maybe not being as incisive because Lamine was getting attacked by Nuno Mendes, and they had a lot of attention on him. Pedri, I thought, if you put an Isco there, you get maybe a better outcome. And what's interesting is that at halftime, Spain were way better, even though they were only good for 20 minutes. Statistically, we see they had 1.6 expected goals to Portugal's 0.12 at halftime. 7 shots to 2 shots on target to 1 for Portugal, 58% possession. So at halftime, even going in at 2-1, I wasn't 100% sure. I wasn't 100% sure if Portugal had anything to turn the game around at that point, just because, the expected goals looks horrible. I'm like, hey, you guys played well. Like, you controlled Spain, and yet you created nothing that half outside that Nuno wonder strike. So I was worried, but Spain kind of seemed to get tired. And that's where just looking at the results for the last 5 games, Captain Guardiola on Twitter pointed it out. They've conceded goal after goal. They don't know how to maintain leads as much. You know, we saw against France, even before Turkey came on, they were not as solid defensively. Then Turkey came, applied the finishing touches, brought momentum, but they were struggling. And so I guess it was a Spain that's not as dominant as during their Euro run too. You can't go and say that Portugal beat the typical dominant Spain team. However, I would argue that a lot of it did come down to Nuno Mendes. Roberto Martinez did enough, but as Spain got tired and Isco wasn't playing the best minutes with Yamal, if you got maybe the more incisive Isco next to Yamal early, maybe you create more and kill the game. You don't kill the game, and Portugal have more energy. They come back in it. And from there, we got to just talk about that Cristiano goal. It was so iconic to see him celebrating with Lamine in the background. It was a cool moment. Just because, again, halftime, the expected goals makes me think, if that was a good half to my eye, what is going on the pitch? Are we screwed? And then it's 2-2, and I feel like Spain literally did not have much of a shot to win the game from there. Don't have the expected goals for the full game. I'm just going off my eye test. But Portugal take control of the game energetically. And just going into penalties, I felt like at that point the momentum's with Portugal because Spain know they should have killed the game. And on top of that, dude, something about the second I saw Morata step up. I just saw him. I was watching it with a Barcelona fan, my brother, just a penalty shootout. And I immediately turned to my brother and I laughed. I'm like, oh, look who's taking it. Because it's firstly, Portugal took first. So they're up 4-3. And then Morata walks up. So Spain have to score both. Portugal need 1. And even if Portugal miss, if Spain miss, margin for error. So I see Morata's face. I laugh. And there was that. I just want to say there's something special about when Ronaldo gets injured in an international tournament final and his team goes on to win. I feel like it's an omen for a golden era. And that's what I feel like I really get the summer 16 vibes. It's the beginning of a good time at Real Madrid. I know our boy Dean Hudson lost. I just want to point him out. he was ridiculous again. I think everything I saw in this game is just optimism for Real Madrid in the future, and happy that Lamine got humbled a little, because Hudson was phenomenal. He was arguably Spain's best player in possession. Ball carrying was off the charts. I didn't notice this statistically, but 1.5 progressive carries is ridiculous. He averages 1.5. Ramos averaged 0.7 to 0.8. And Ramos, for me, was still one of the most like all-rounded, left-sided, right-footed center backs to build out of the back. He was amazing at the long switches of play, and he started as a right back. This is a different level. Football has evolved so much now. Players are just so much faster, and like attackers are now, the skills of attackers are being given to defenders, and so defenders have to build up more. And so even the latest premium model of a ball playing defender you find is kind of ridiculous compared to what we know before. So very happy to see what Dean did. There were times when I felt like they tried forcing it down Yamal's side, but frankly, Spain found more success playing through Dean and Nico on the left this time. And a lot of that is down to Nuno Mendes. What a performance by him. People were pointing out that like it's hard to see such a two-way fullback. And I agree. Like this was like a peak Marcelo game, like the best games from Marcelo, where his winger would be locked down and he'd create. And that wasn't every time, as we know, but there were occasions where it would happen. Nuno, we got the full package. He literally did not put a foot wrong on defense. He looked like Ferland, Mendy, and Marcelo, like mixed, like the defense of Mendy and the offense of Marcelo or something. It was ridiculous. And man, the goal was amazing. The assist was amazing. The Cristiano was hyping him up before the tournament, and I think he knew Cristiano's always like been one to, in my opinion, like kind of hype up the fullback he needs. Like he was friends with Joao Cancelo over at Juventus. Obviously, he loved Marcelo. Marcelo unlocked him from 2014 to 18. Even though his dribbling cut back. And here, he knew Nuno would have to probably lock down Yamal and call game. And, you know, Nuno called game here and against Germany. He just went and cooked. So very proud of Nuno Mendes. Also want to point out, Spain have a lot of players, but man, Portugal now with some of these PSG guys winning, like they're so stacked. Joao Neves, you already have the Diaz. You already have Ruben Diaz and Bernardo. Bernardo's not always looked great, but when you pair that with the Nuno Mendes, the Joao Neves at right back, and so on, you get a lot more control. I thought in possession, Portugal were as good as they could be. They tried out of possession, struggled at points in the first half. Once Spain got tired, it wasn't less of a problem. So really happy with the way that game turned out. Really happy with Cristiano and winning that game. Those were most of my thoughts, guys. Solo, I'm just thinking if there's anything else miscellaneous. Oh, yeah, Real Madrid going forward. I just want to say, yeah, it's just, I remember 2016. This just feels so 2016 to me. It's like summer 2016 all over again. I'm going to throw that on because essentially that summer we're going in with, like in January of 16, everything's looking down. We win the Champions League. Then Ronaldo gets his Euro. Messi loses that Copa final, which as Real Madrid fans, we're all rooting for that. And then we go on to win the league and Champions League that year, and we had Zidane. This feels a bit like that, except the coach is changing in the summer. But the same vibe of like, a Ronaldo international victory is just setting the tone for what's going to be a fun summer. Watching Dean is really what gave me some of that confidence. I know the Stiller news is that he's not as likely to sign. And I'm telling y'all, like we said on the previous episode, go check our lives. Like Dean and Trent and even Carreras, who will sign. The question seems to be if we can get enough money over the line before the Club World Cup. So the deadline's tomorrow. If he signs, great. And I'm assuming he signs no matter what. In that scenario, we have enough problem solving in build-up. It's cool to see how defenders can do some of the same provocative things that Cruz did. To be honest, Cruz dropped into the back line to do the things he did. He was in the left back zone that Dean operates out of. So that's why I actually think I'm going to say Dean is the Crony Cruz replacement for our team. He showed that today. He's going to play in the same zone. He's going to be circulating from that zone. He has the range to circulate from that zone. It won't be the same volume because he's a center back. But the reality is, even if it becomes unusually high volume, it literally, because like he projects that way because 50 passes completed for Bournemouth, come over here is probably another 10, 15. And then if you add another, like we're getting 10, 15 more, we're at 70 to 75 passes per 90, 60 to 65. If a coach then adds 10 more to that, we're looking at a very high volume playmaking center back. And it's cool because he does it from the left side as a right footer. That is rare. Again, that's the Ramos quality in comparison I was making along with his height. But that's where, he's a better carrier. He's He's just in a more modern game, and he's not as fast probably. I'm not as worried about that just because he seems to read the game so well. And I think Alonso will cover for him. We have athletes all over the pitch up front, and that's where, Fede, Tchouaméni, and Camavinga can cover for these guys. Trent and Dean are going to create now. It's the same way like Camavinga, Tchouaméni, Fede would help cover for Kroos and Modric would drop. Like, our problem solvers need to come near the ball. It doesn't matter what line of play they play in, as long as they're good playmakers and have vision of the field. That's what Dean brings. And that's where it was a dream, seeing Yamal get locked up, but our boy Dean Cook, seeing Pedri playing and Isco not starting potentially be a tactical mistake. Music to my ears, Real Madrid fans. So I think I've pretty much covered everything I want to talk today. I know this is a super solo mini podcast, and I know there could be more to be done, but I just wanted to come and celebrate. Cristiano did it again. See you all day. Thank you all for tuning in for this show. We'll be back this week with more formal episodes. This was just a fun reaction. Everything is getting better. This is probably my last episode without my official studio setup and glow up coming in. So thank you all for tuning in. Peace out.